online class. And today, this morning in the morning class, I talked about how to share your faith. I had a young Christian woman ask that question: how do we share our faith? Tonight, the question is, how do we affair-proof our marriage? How do we affair-proof our marriage? This week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you're going to be treated to Billy. He's got some dynamite questions. Question one, what happens when we die? What happens when we die? What about Hades? What is that? Do we go straight to heaven or hell? What about the bodies in the cemetery? That comes from a Christian in Texas, an older Christian in Texas. Question two that Billy's going to handle is how do we get the Bible? How do we get the Bible? How was it translated? Do we have any of the original books of the Bible there? What translations are best? Also this week, Billy will be talking about this question. It comes from a woman in Tennessee. She wrote, "I enjoy the music in my church. I feel it brings me closer to God. What is wrong? What is so wrong with a praise band?" So Billy will be tackling those questions this week. It's going to be a wonderful week. And let me urge you, if possible, be here. Be here for this. I think it will be a blessing to you. You will grow spiritually. If you can't be here in person, join us online. Be with us online and be involved in it. Now, this morning, I've got a question from a young man currently in college in Mississippi. Here is his question. Doesn't evolution do a better job explaining how we got here? Now, the short answer to that question is in red. No. No, it doesn't. Let me give you the long answer. And to give you the long answer, I've got to start in St. Louis, Missouri. I lived in Northeast Arkansas over 50 years. And living in Northeast Arkansas, we often went to St. Louis. St. Louis was about 4.5 hours away, and that was the big city that we would go to. Now, St. Louis is famous for some things. They're famous for the St. Louis Cardinals. That's a pretty famous baseball team. And they have actually won the World Series the second most times. The first time is, go ahead and say it, the New York Yankees. Okay, got that out of my system. The second thing that they are famous for is, unfortunately, the Anheuser-Busch Brewery, okay? That's there with the Clydesdales. They're famous for that. They're also famous, third, for being a Catholic city. 22% of the residents of St. Louis identify themselves as Catholic. And because of that, they have a lot of Catholic schools, primary schools, secondary schools there. A few years ago, they had a change in leadership. And the new leadership there with the schools, they wanted to know how well are we doing with our kids. So they conducted a very confidential survey of their graduates. Now, the survey was very long with many questions. I want to pull out just 2 questions, just 2. Here it goes. According to the survey, 51% of St. Louis Catholic school graduates believe evolution does a better job in explaining how we got here. Wait, hold on right here. Now, they have a really high retention rate. In other words, a lot of those graduates had been in their school system since preschool, grade school, junior high, senior high. And over half, a majority of those students believe that evolution does a better job in explaining how we got here. Furthermore, second part, 81% believe in some form of evolution. whoa here. What? How's that possible? They believe in some form of evolution. In a moment, we're going to talk about creation evolutionists. Those are people that hold on to religion with one hand, but hold on a firm hand on evolution. You know, they kind of try to mix the two together. They try to compromise. That makes me think. That makes me wonder. What about our kids? How would our kids respond? And then, how would you and I respond? You know, evolution is all around us. We're surrounded by it all the time. We are bombarded by it. For example, the movies. You know, it's there in the movies. We see it in the movies, and we end up just kind of thinking, well, that has to be true. That has to be a reality. That has to be a fact. And not just in the movies, you know, even the titles of our TV shows. Have you ever listened to the theme song for that show? That's evolution. What is the imprint that's on your mind when you're surrounded by things like that? I went to Amazon and I did a real simple Amazon search. I put in the word evolution, then I put in the word children's books. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. This was the first one up. Evolution is all around us. So how do we react? How do we handle it? Is it not just a theory? Is it a fact? What do we do? Now, in a 25-minute sermon, I can't cover all the points. It would be impossible. So what I've done is I've taken the three most common attacks that evolution lobbies against Christianity. And let's see how we can handle it. Attack number one, what about the dinosaurs? Yeah, the evolution said, yeah, we got you there. You Bible believers, dinosaurs. You were already defeated right from the start. Well, how about the dinosaurs? Were dinosaurs one time here? Well, yes, that's a fact. We have found so many fossils that's beyond a possibility. It's a fact. Dinosaurs were here on Earth at one time. Now, evolution says that man evolved about 6 million years ago. We started out as that one cell, and then we kept on expanding, and 6 million years ago, there was mankind. Evolution, when they talk about the dinosaurs, evolution says that dinosaurs and humans are separated by about 60 million years. Well, maybe I need to change that. Maybe I need to say evolution once said dinosaurs and humans are separated by about 60 million years. Because the evidence keeps on coming in that says dinosaurs and mankind existed at the same time. Well, what does the Bible say? Genesis 1, verses 24 through 31, tells us that man, Adam, was created on the same day of creation as all land-dwelling animals. In other words, we were together at the start. Now, archaeological discoveries since 1900 have clearly placed man and dinosaurs together. They're not separated by 60 million years. They're together. So why was evolution wrong with that? Well, let's turn to Jack Horner. Who's Jack Horner? Jack Horner is one of the more famous dinosaur fossil hunters of my lifetime. Here's a quote from Jack Horner. Scientists have egos, and those egos have driven evolutionists to allege things that are not what the evidence actually demands. They are driven to seek headlines. And that's clearly when you talk about, for example, names of dinosaurs. You know, the names of dinosaurs that I knew back when I was a little boy, those names have all changed. In the history of science, we have given names to 1,401 dinosaurs. We were wrong on 48% of them. In other words, about half. Those discoveries were false. It was the same old dinosaur that they had talked about in previous years. They had given it a new name. Why did they do that? Why does evolution do that? Because there's intense pressure. Intense pressure on evolution to produce results, to maintain funding. They got to maintain funding, so what do? They got to have results. And to have results means sometimes, and may I change that to often, they make mistakes. Well, evolution accuses the Bible of failing to mention the word dinosaurs. Guilty as charged. The Bible doesn't have the word dinosaur in it. The Bible also fails to mention the word computers. It fails to mention the word phones, to mention the word airplanes, but that doesn't discredit the Bible. The Bible's main purpose is to paint a picture of God's love and God's plan of redeeming mankind. God's book, the Bible, its main purpose is not to give us a list of every type of animal that's ever walked the face of the earth. Now, when we talk about the word dinosaur, which means a terrible lizard or great lizard, that word was not coined until 1842. The first English translation was completed in 1535. That's a 300-year difference. Are we surprised that the word dinosaur is not in the Bible? No, we're not surprised at all. But when I look at the Bible, I see the Bible talking about some animals that were very large. And we don't know exactly what these words mean. For example, let's consider the Hebrew word tannin, T-A-N-N-I-N. In Genesis chapter 1, in Job chapter 7, in Psalm chapter 148, we find the word tannin. It's translated there as a sea monster or a great sea creature. Because, see, we don't really know what that animal was. For example, let's just pick one of those. Let's pick Job. Job was a man that was probably, we think, a contemporary of the early patriarchs. Even though the book of Job appears about the middle of the Bible, of the Old Testament, the book of Job takes place probably during the years of the early patriarchs, maybe even Abraham. Okay? Here's what it says in Job 7, verse 12. Am I the sea, or a sea monster, the word tannin, that you set a guard over me? Could the Bible right there be talking about a dinosaur? It's possible. Oh, how about the book of Isaiah? In the book of Isaiah, chapter 30, verse 6, an oracle on the beast of the Negeb, through a land of trouble and anguish. From where comes the lioness and the lion, the adder and what? The flying, fiery serpent. What is it? We don't know. Could it be a dinosaur? Maybe, I don't know. I really don't know. Or how about the book of Job again? Job chapter 40. Job chapter 40, God is speaking here to Job. And he says, verse 15, behold, behemoth. What's a behemoth? Answer, we don't know. It's clearly some large animal. Okay, let's read on. Behold, behemoth, which I made as I made you. Just like I made him, I made you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold, his strength is in his loins, his power in the muscles of his belly. He makes his tail stiff like a cedar. A cedar tree was their largest plant. The cedars of Lebanon were famous for being large, massive trees. And God says, this animal, his tail is stiff like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze. His limbs like bars of iron. Drop down to chapter 41, verse 1. Can you draw out Leviathan? What's a Leviathan? Answer, we do not know. It's some large animal. We don't know what that is. Could he be talking about a dinosaur? Possible. Can you draw out Leviathan with a fish hook or press down his tongue with a cord? Now, evolution says, well, that's behemoth, that's Leviathan, that's behemoth is a hippo or maybe an elephant, and the Leviathan is a crocodile. Okay. Elephants and hippos, well, what kind of tail do they have? Little bitty tails, don't they? Do they have a tail like a cedar? I don't think so. Is it possible that God is describing a dinosaur? It's possible. We really don't know. So to their attack number one, I say they fail. Let's look at attack number two. What about the age of the earth? Yeah, they say, you Bible believers, you're so wrong because you say the earth is just over 6,000 years old. Well, the earth is millions and millions and millions of years old. There's a Greek word for that. Get ready, I'm going to teach you some Greek. The Greek word for that is baloney, okay? It's wrong. They're wrong. They're so wrong. First off, God is not bound by time. When He created the world in 6 days, He could have done it in 6 hours. He could have done it in 6 minutes. Hey, our God could have done it in 6 seconds. He's God. Well, here's where we have creation that blends in with evolution. Because there's some people that want to hold on to both. They say, well, you know, God created the heavens and the earth, but then He stepped back and let evolution take over. And all those things that we see happening in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, that came about because of evolution. So they are creation evolutionists. Creation evolutionists are wrong. Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20, verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day. You remember it. To keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. Now, clearly, we're talking about a 24-hour day. Okay? 6 days you work, the 7th day you keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath, a rest to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work. You or your son or your daughter, your male servant or your female servant or your livestock or the sojourner who is within your gates. And then circle verse 11. This is the big one. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Clearly, we're talking about a 24-hour day. A 24-hour day. Now, there are time periods in the Bible that I recognize that are longer than a 24-hour time period. For example, 2 Peter chapter 3. Do not overlook this one fact, beloved, that with the Lord 1 day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as 1 day. Genesis 1:14, and God said, let there be light in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night. Let them be for signs and for seasons. Seasons, that's longer than a day. For days and years. Now, there are references to lengths of time that are longer than a 24-hour day in the Bible. But when we talk about creation, the days of creation are 6 days. Furthermore, let me give you 7 reasons. 7 reasons that I believe the earth is not millions and millions and millions of years old. Number 1, the biggest reason. The Bible says so, and I believe the Bible. I don't have to give you the other 6. For me, that's all I need. But I'm going to give you the other 6. So the Bible says so. The Bible, when you add up all the years, we get about 6,000 or so years, okay? So that's the age of the earth. But let's look at other reasons. Reason number 2, fossils. Oh, science doesn't like this. But science has to acknowledge that the quality of the fossils, the appearance of the fossils, do not easily fit a timeline of millions and millions and millions and millions of years. It just doesn't. So the quality of the fossils, the appearance of the fossils don't really jive with a concept of millions and millions of years. A few years ago, reason number 3, a few years ago, we found some bacteria that had been preserved as a fossil. And they did some DNA testing. Here's what they found. The DNA testing of that bacteria did not indicate millions and millions and millions of years. Even though they first said, yeah, that goes back to, they talked about different time periods. But they finally had to say, no, it doesn't fit. Number 4. Randy, you're going to like this. This is math. Human population figures. What do I mean? Well, right now, I can tell you what is projected for the world's population in 2030, 2040, 2050, 2100. I can give you those population numbers, okay? Those are projections. Guess what? Their projections are pretty close. They're fairly close. Well, if we can project in the future, can we backtrack and go back to the start? Well, yes, we can. And if you say that mankind has been here for 6 million years, guess what? The math doesn't work. But the math does work if you say the earth's been around for about 6,000 years. Okay? So math, population figures. Reason number 5. Science doesn't like this. Carbon dating, carbon-14 dating. If you're really honest with the figures and the evidence, it doesn't match up for millions and millions and millions of years. It just doesn't work. Number 6, soft tissue and blood vessels in dinosaur fossils line up better for 6,000 years than it does for 60 million years. Reason number 7, the amount of salt in the sea and the amount of sediment on the sea floor. See, the oceans are constantly evaporating, and that makes a very minute difference every century in the amount of salt that's in the ocean water. And they can project how much salt will be in 100 years or 200 years. Well, once again, they can backtrack. Guess what? When you backtrack, it doesn't work on millions and millions of years, but it works on 6,000 years. Or how about the sediment on the bottom of the ocean? Well, it works on 6,000 years, but it doesn't work on 60 million years. Because see, there's a constant increase of sediment that they can measure and they can calculate. And once again, you backtrack and it doesn't work. You see, it works on 6,000 years, but it doesn't work on 60 million years. And let me add this. When God created the heavens and the earth, He automatically aged everything. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's pretend for a moment that we can get into a time machine. Okay, it's impossible. That's fiction. That's science fiction. But let's say we got into a time machine and we went back to the day after Adam was created. And we met Adam one day after he was created. How old would Adam look like? Would he look like he was one day old? Well, no. God made him an adult man. But he's actually only one day old. But I'm sorry, he was made as an adult man. Well, how about trees? If you went back to the day after the trees were made, and you cut down a tree, and you know those growth rings that we see in trees? Would you see a tree that only showed that it was one day old? Well, no, it's going to be, it was made full grown. Likewise, God made the earth full grown. And even though the earth, the rocks and all were only just a few days old after creation, they all look like they look like today. That's the way God made it. That's what we would expect. Attack number 3. Well, what about the constant evolution of man? What about the constant evolution of man? Science says, well, we got you there, Christian. We've got you there. You see, it clearly shows that man keeps on evolving and changing. And guess what? They're right. Moms, at what age did your daughter or granddaughter start wearing the same shoes as you? Our granddaughter, our oldest granddaughter, is already, her feet are bigger than her mom, and she's only 11. What am I saying? We're evolving, we're changing. If you go to any of the colonial homes in our country, Corbin, get ready. If you go visit a colonial home, you're going to have to duck, okay? Because you're too tall. You're going to run into the top of the doorway. Because why? 200 years ago, we were not as tall. If you go to the Holy Lands and visit any of those ancient Roman buildings, you're going to have to duck if you're over 6 foot. Because why? Because they weren't that tall back then. Yes, we are changing. That's a fact. We are changing. But friends, that's part of God's plan. Mankind in our world is what? Adaptable. God made it that way. God made it so that we do change and we are adapting to our needs and to our environment and to whatever else is going on in our circle. He made us adaptable. That doesn't prove evolution. That proves that God is a wise God who knows what is needed. When I see the changing of mankind, I see a design. I see a design. And where there is a design, that requires a designer. The designer was God. God designed everything we see all around us because He's a good God. He's a loving God. As a Christian, does evolution bother me? No, not at all. Because evolution has always had this biggest obstacle to it. Evolution can't explain how life started. They can't explain how life started. How life just started from nothing. Because they have tried so many times to create life, and they can't do it. They keep on failing every time. The only answer is that life comes from God. It comes from God, and only God. Only God could create life. Not science, not evolution. This morning, will you put your faith in God? Will you put your faith in the one that has made everything we see? Will you become a Christian? Notice the words of Jesus here. He said to believe, John 8:24. He said to repent, Luke 13:3. He said to confess, Matthew 10:32. He said to be baptized, Matthew 28:18 through 20. As a Christian, I celebrate the wisdom of God. I celebrate His providential care. But as a Christian, sometimes as a Christian, I can disappoint Him. I can turn back to the world. I can bring sin into my life. And as a Christian, I have that extra blessing of knowing that I can go to God. And when I realize I have wronged Him, I can ask Him to forgive me, and He will forgive me. 1 John 1:9. This church here stands ready to pray with you and for you. James 5:16. Will you make that step today? Will you put your faith and confidence in a God that has created everything we see? Will you love God by obeying Him? Will you please come as we stand and sing for your encouragement?